Over the past week, Riot has been making tons of announcements, more than they ever have in the history of the company. We received news of new games like a fighter game, first-person shooters, card games, and many more. Shortly after these announcements though, Riot gave us our first look into the preseason and what we're going to be seeing in this next coming season, in Season 10. Please keep in mind that the preseason is a time where a lot of different changes go through, and Riot likes to try a lot of new things. Just because they plan to release something for the preseason currently doesn't mean it will actually make it to the preseason. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of guides, all done by Challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles as well as champion specific courses, so if that is something that interests you, make sure to check it out using the link in the description below. Now without further ado, let's take a look at Preseason 2020, The Rise of the Elements. The first thing that I want to briefly cover is that there are going to be 3 new brushes on the map. Instead of there being 2 brushes in the bot lane, there's going to be 3, and there's going to be an additional brush at each blue buff. Now, the biggest change in this preseason is going to be to dragons. Riot wants each game to feel unique and play out differently, even if you pick the same champions. As a result, each dragon is going to be impacting the map differently and how you play around certain objectives. The 3rd dragon in each and every game is going to be the one that dictates what the map looks like. Before spawning, that dragon is going to be causing a fundamental change to the map depending on which dragon it is. It will also be the only type of dragon to spawn until one team has reached 4 dragons, in which case the Elder Dragon will spawn afterwards. Now, if this dragon is everyone's favorite dragon, the Infernal Dragon, then terrain and brushes will be burned down around red and blue buff. This will allow for new pathing opportunities and for more open fights in the jungle. If the Ocean Dragon is the 3rd to spawn, then brushes are going to be bigger across the map, and there are going to be more honey fruit available in new locations. There will also be new brushes inside of the Dragon Pit along with this change. Cloud is the simplest of the 4. If Cloud is the 3rd dragon to spawn, then air currents are going to spawn around the buffs. These air currents are going to give movement speed to any champions inside of them, allowing for faster rotations and the ability to dodge more skill shots. Finally, if the Mountain Dragon is the 3rd dragon to spawn, the new terrain is going to be popping up across the rift. This is going to be at the buffs and in the Dragon Pit. This will create choke points that never existed before and will allow teams with heavy AoE or wall-reliant CC to really shine. At the moment, it's not going to be possible to tell which one of these maps you're going to be playing on in Champion Select. This means you're just going to have to play by ear, and once the map transforms, you're going to have to adapt to it. This, however, is not the only change being made to the dragons in the preseason. Each one of the dragon buffs is going to be touched up on, and there is a completely new dragon buff called the Dragon's Soul, which you will get once you have slain 4 dragons. Whichever is your 4th dragon slain will affect what kind of buff you get from this Dragon's Soul. Only one team is going to be able to claim a Dragon's Soul, and they're going to be powerful buffs that persist through death. Before we talk more about these Dragon Souls, however, let's quickly go over what the dragon buffs themselves are going to be doing. Infernal and Ocean Drake are going to be relatively the same. Air and Mountain Drake are both receiving huge changes though, so listen up. Air Drake is going to be granting your team cooldown reduction on your ultimate abilities. Mountain Dragon is going to be increasing your armor and your magic resistance by a percentage. Now that we know what each of the dragons do, let's talk about the powerful buffs that the Dragon's Souls will be giving you. Remember, you claim the soul of whatever the 4th dragon you slay is. An Infernal Dragon Soul is going to grant you additional AoE damage every 3 seconds on your next attack. This will be adaptive damage, and it's going to scale off of your AD, ability power, and your health. An Ocean Dragon Soul will give you additional regen, which will trigger each time you deal any damage. This will be slightly less regen when you proc this on minions. A Mountain Dragon Soul is going to be giving you a shield when you are out of combat for 5 seconds. The shield will last until it is destroyed, and it's going to scale again off of AD, AP, and health. This is pretty much Malphite's shield, except for everyone. Now finally, the one that I find the most interesting is the Cloud Dragon Soul. If your team is able to capture the Cloud Dragon Soul, then your attacks and abilities will all lower your basic abilities cooldowns. This is basically current Spear of Shojin, except it applies to your abilities as well as your auto attacks. Now, before you get too crazy with your theory crafting, Spear of Shojin is going to be removed in the preseason, which means you're not going to be able to do any sort of crazy stacking where you have both the Cloud Dragon Soul and Spear of Shojin on something like Jax, for example. Now, there is one Drake that we haven't talked about, and that is the Elder Drake. Elder Drake's burn is still there, but if this burn affects a low health target, then Elder Drake will execute that target, killing them instantly. Now, it's not quite instant, although it is pretty close to it. You can heal it, you can shield it, you can zone use it. There are ways to avoid it, but it is going to be pretty quick damage. Now that we've covered all that there is to know about simply the dragons, let's talk about some of the other things that come with this preseason. Riot Games promised that top lane impact was going to be increased this preseason. You see, top lane has been quite weak the past few seasons, and Riot is looking to make amends. For this reason, they added the side lane alcoves. Now, if you've been keeping up with Twitter, then I'm sure you've seen some hilarious memes about these alcoves, but in all reality, these are a nice change. While these alcoves aren't going to be useful for the vast majority of the laning phase, they can be used to help give you additional time to kite out for your cooldowns in the event of a jungle gank. You're not going to be feeling the impact of the alcove in every single game, but when you do, it's going to be feeling pretty cool. Riot is also going to be increasing the base EXP that minions give to give solo laners a bit of an edge here. To compensate, shared EXP is going to be reduced so that bot lane doesn't double dip. This means that you're going to be able to hit your levels faster, and you're going to have to get used to when levels are occurring because they're going to occur on different minions now. Additionally, to help balance out the objectives, Rift Herald is going to be spawning an additional time each game, if you kill it early enough. Jungle's going to be having some very controversial changes this preseason. Jungle diversity is looking to be increased by making Gromp worth more EXP and Krugs worth a little bit less. This makes it so that junglers can hit level 3 off of a buff camp, either Krugs or Gromp, and any other camp. Now this is a pretty decent change, but jungle pathing diversity is affected by where you want to end your path at, not what camps give you what. The part that's been very controversial so far is the jungle timer changes. Jungle timers are being added to every single camp, like the ones that you have for red and blue buff. Jungle timers were really looked down on the first time they were added to red and blue buff because it really killed your ability to path creatively, forcing you to go to your red or blue buff as soon as it spawned. It also made you susceptible to any invades that might happen, because even if they didn't have information on when you cleared your last red, they knew when it was going to spawn, meaning the enemy could just invade you without needing to know when you cleared your first red. If these jungle timers are implemented properly, then it won't be an issue, but if they are global jungle timers like red and blue buff are, then I can see a ton of lashback happening in the jungle community. Jungle EXP as a whole is also going to be tuned down a little bit this patch, but it shouldn't be a huge issue since the majority of the time, junglers are getting a lot of their EXP from lanes. Now moving on to support, we're seeing some itemization changes. There are going to be 4 different support items, with a mixture of either AD and HP or AP and HP. These items are either going to have the Relic Shield passive or the Spell Thief's passive. You're also not going to have to upgrade these items by purchasing them, and they're just going to upgrade themselves whenever you've generated a certain amount of gold with that item. Once your support items are fully upgraded, you're going to be losing the gold generation passive on those items. With this change to support items, they're also making an overhaul to the anti-poaching rules that came with these items, though we don't have any specific information on that yet. They say that the new anti-poaching rules are going to be allowing you to CS every once in a while, but if you start CSing like a normal carry, then you'll start seeing more punishment. Now, onto a change that I'm really excited about. The next rework is to lethality items. Now, the items themselves are staying relatively the same, with the exception of Edge of Night, which is now going to give you a Banshee's Veil passive instead of an active ability passive. At the moment, there are also 2 new lethality items in the shop, one being called Sanguine Blade and the other being called Umbral Hydra. Sanguine Blade is designed for split pushers and will grant attack speed when you are alone. We don't have too much information on the Umbral Hydra yet. All we know is that it has the cleave bonus that Tiamat has, and it gives you lethality like the other lethality items. Now, the thing that is so unique about this lethality rework is the fact that they're introducing set bonuses. If you have 1 or 2 pieces of this set, then you're going to be getting additional bonus CDR and lethality. The set bonus stops at 2, so you can either itemize into more lethality afterwards, or you can go full AD with utility-based items like GA or Black Cleaver. If you don't need additional armor shreds, Derek's Gauge is going to be a fantastic pickup because it gives a lot of AD and survivability. Now, the final thing that has been announced for preseason so far is the changes to runes, and this is the one that I am by far the most excited about. Riot is looking to adjust 3 different keystones that have all been problematic in the past, making them a little bit more acceptable. The first change is to Kleptomancy, which will be giving you more elixirs early on into the game and less gold. They want to make this keystone so it feels more like you're trying to steal something away from the enemy team so that you can fight them with it, as opposed to farming gold off of the enemy team. Aftershock is still too strong on non-tank units, and as a result, Riot is going to be lowering the base resistances that you get for proccing Aftershock and increasing the scaling with resistance, making it so that high resistance units should be able to use Aftershock better, and low resistance units should not be able to use it quite as well. Finally, and this is the one I am so excited for, Conqueror is being changed to give stacking adaptive power instead of true damage. This should make Conqueror feel like Old Fervor of Battle instead of a one rune fits all for anyone who wants true damage or sustain or stacking adaptive force. If done right, addressing these specific runes should help a lot with the current state of the game and game balance. If there's any one change that sticks out to you that you're super excited for, then let us know in a comment down below. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our website, GameLeap.com. There we have hundreds of guides, all done by challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. We have courses both on the 5 fundamental roles, as well as champion specific courses, so if that is something that interests you, make sure to check us out using the link in the description below. As always, I'm Panther, I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.